Wonderful. We've got people joining, so that's amazing. We'll just give the attendees a couple more minutes to dial in, if that's okay. Won't be long and we'll be ready to start. Just one more minute, just to wait for everybody to join. Don't want anybody to miss out. And then we'll make a start. Okay, wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar and thank you so much for joining. Today, we're going to talk about the 3 pillars of mobile security for medium businesses. We're going to go through what they are and how we can get them in place. So let me introduce myself. My name's Sadie. I'm your regional business specialist for Manchester. And today we have my colleagues, Jimmy and Sandhya. Jimmy, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sadie, and good morning, everybody. Great to be talking to you today. I'm Jimmy Anderson. I'm a senior propositions consultant for 3 Business, looking after cybersecurity and device management propositions.
And Sandhya, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, great. Thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate you taking the time to join us for the session. My name is Sandhya Ganesan and I work for a company called Karata. We are a mobile security company headquartered in Dublin. We help businesses protect them from innumerable mobile threats like phishing, malware, and spyware. And I work as a channel manager. So I work with your colleagues in 3 Ireland and 3 UK to secure their business customers.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that. Today, we'd like to talk about the content of what we're going to deliver. In particular, your mobile devices, how to make them safe. We want to talk about the top threats, and we want to talk about absolutely the 3 pillars of mobile security. We absolutely welcome questions. And if it's okay with everybody, we'd like to save questions and answers until the end. And now I'd like to hand over to Jimmy.
Thanks, Sadie. So I think it's worth kicking off the session with a bit of a review of the current landscape surrounding mobile devices. You know, there's no disputing the fact that mobiles are a crucial part of day-to-day work life when it comes to business, and that has grown exponentially over the last couple of years due to various challenges that businesses have faced. They've effectively become the new frontier for cybercrime. So whilst they've become a real benefit to businesses in the sense that they enhance productivity, all of the explosion in cloud-based apps and all of the access that employees have makes them more productive, it's also quite often the case that businesses' security provisions haven't kept up with the adoption of these services. So with that in mind, the lack of visibility that can sometimes result from this and the lack of control over these mobile devices in the sense that you would have on your traditional desktops or laptops provides an increased risk to businesses. And, effectively 57% of technology execs are worried about the security of unprotected devices, and they're quite right to be worried about that. There are increasing threats out there, more and more sophisticated attacks happening, and mobile phones have become the preferred entry point for a hack to businesses when bad actors are looking to take advantage of getting into company networks and accessing that data for nefarious purposes. So moving on, it's all too easy for businesses to overlook mobile security, particularly when small and medium businesses perhaps don't have the dedicated resource or expertise in place to monitor threats on an ongoing basis and continue to reassess their security posture to prevent the ever evolving threat landscape that's out there. Mobile users are way more vulnerable to phishing attacks amongst other attack vectors than PC users who've got that traditional office infrastructure applied around security. So that again reinforces the point that mobiles are viewed as by cyber criminals as an easy way into your organization without the right protections in place. Just to give you some sort of feel for the size of that threat, there's around about 65,000 attempts to hack small and medium businesses per day in the UK alone, and about 50% of those start with a phishing attack. So, really consistent and high numbers of attacks being launched every day against small and medium businesses reinforces the point that you have to have the right strategy in place to defend yourself against these. So we want to have a look at some of the threats that are out there, just to give you a feel for the stuff that you'll undoubtedly be seeing in the news and in the press on an ongoing basis. And this is covering larger corporate businesses as well as small and medium businesses. Uber, for example, were recently breached by a very large and damaging phishing attack, and that was launched by a sole actor, an 18-year-old hacker who managed to breach their database by impersonating an IT manager and sending repeated multi-factor authentication requests to employees to get them to log in, and was able to steal credentials, resulting in a very damaging attack. You'll all have seen news recently about TikTok and how that is being banned on government devices in the UK and beyond. And it's quite right that they're taking that viewpoint. TikTok as an app requires the user to grant very dangerous permissions. By granting those, the users effectively give access to contacts, device content, geolocation data, and much more, which from a security point of view are absolutely things you don't want your employees to be giving access to. Other examples are Twilio. So Twilio are a large organization that provide bulk text messaging services to telecommunications industry and beyond. They were recently targeted by a very highly sophisticated spear phishing attack that was launched at very specific employees, looked incredibly credible, and they were able to gain access to the company's network. And the damage that caused is multi-million pounds, and that's before you talk about reputational damage. So just a feel for some of the range of attacks and the seriousness of the threat that's out there. So the consequences of this, you probably don't need me to tell you, but they're very, very real. So we've talked about and mentioned financial damage. That goes without saying, the cost to repair any breach of your systems, the reparative actions that you need to take to correct that, any stolen data that you would need to make sure had been secured or take the right action around. Regulatory consequences, depending on the industry that you operate in. Some industries, finance services, for example, are highly regulated around company data, and the regulators take a dim view of data breaches. And all of that ladders up to reputational impact, which is arguably for a business the potentially the biggest damage that can be caused, because once you've been breached and customers' data has been stolen, your reputation takes a bit of repairing from that. 22% of all data breaches are caused by phishing scams. So, we'll talk about this as a recurring theme throughout the presentation, but we can't overstate the importance of having the right protections in place across your people, your process, and your product to defend your businesses against this. All three will give you a good, solid security posture, and we'll talk in more detail about what those elements look like as we go through the presentation. So, very staggering stat here, but 80% of businesses don't have security on their mobile devices. A huge amount of unprotected mobile devices accessing company resources out there. So what I'm going to do is hand you over to Sandhya, who was going to take you through a look at why that might be and what we can do about it.
Thanks, Jimmy. We just spoke about what kind of threats we're seeing and also how important mobile phones are to your day-to-day business. And working in cybersecurity, we talk to multiple organizations every single day of different sizes to understand what their security challenges are and how we can help overcome them. And in our conversations with multiple business owners and IT teams of small and medium enterprises, we always hear there's these few common reasons as to why mobile security has not been a priority, even though you're using the same email apps, your Teams and all of that are being accessed not just on laptops but also on phones. The key concern is really mobile devices. Even if it's company issued, there's always an element of personal usage on it. Your employees are probably using not just for work apps, but also they might have their personal banking apps. Maybe they're doing some shopping online, social media apps. So there's always an element of personal usage, even on company devices. So because of this, organizations never get adequate buy-in from the employees because they're always concerned that, is my employer going to track what I'm doing? Are they going to see what I'm doing on my phone? Plus, with the small to medium companies, don't have the luxury of large cybersecurity budgets. They don't have huge InfoSec teams at their disposal. And again, with the cost of living crisis, we understand that everybody is penny crunching and there's a need to maximize the benefit that you get from every penny that you spend towards your business and also towards security. And with the small teams, with smaller organizations, especially with anywhere between the range of 50 to 200 employees, you guys probably have a really small IT team, anywhere between 3 to 5 employees, or maybe one single person who's handling the entire IT department. So that means they're already handling a lot of complex systems and they're managing the day-to-day aspect of your IT department. So the solution needs to be very easy to manage, requires minimal effort from your team because they're short on bandwidth. And what also doesn't help with the security conversations is really a lot of misconceptions that we have. Like, for example, the common one that I always hear on customer calls is, we have iOS devices, so we're secure. We don't have to worry about all of this. I understand you obviously might have a personal preference towards iOS or Android, but when it comes to a phishing attack, like the multiple ones that Jimmy spoke about, whether it comes from your parcel delivery service or if it's a more targeted one coming from your company or Microsoft, it doesn't matter which phone you have, you are going to be equally susceptible to the threat. So what this means from the organization's perspective is they need a solution. They need solutions and processes that are inexpensive, easy to manage, and also highly effective in solving the security challenge on their mobile devices. Before we can look at what steps you can be taking to secure your business process, it's important to understand how organizations traditionally navigate the security today and what kind of process and policies do they have in place. The first and foremost step, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of you guys over here as well, you probably have at least an antivirus on your laptops. You might even have more advanced security on your laptops and desktop, but the minimum requirement is you at least have like an antivirus. So that means there is an importance. You do understand the value and importance of securing your data and the need to protect it. You're probably even part of the Microsoft environment. That means you're using Office 365, Outlook, Teams, whatnot. So in most cases, be it Microsoft or the Google environment, the emails already come with inbuilt phishing and spam protection. And for the longest time, all conversations about phishing have always revolved around email phishing. But with the challenge with mobiles, it's completely different. With mobile phones, you need to be worried about SMS, WhatsApp, social media channels like LinkedIn and Twitter, because 85% of phishing attacks on mobiles come from these channels and only 15% come from emails, which are already pretty much covered, but it's these other channels that you need to be worried about. Again, companies also, they tend to have the strategy of they just hope that the employees don't click on any phishing links or hope they do the right thing. This strategy is eventually bound to fail just purely because of how advanced these phishing scams have become. Even those banking scams that I get on my phone from my bank, it comes to the legitimate banking thread from my bank, which tells me updates about my account. The phishing SMSs go to that account. So it's not just the employee's fault. The threats are just quite advanced. So it's only a matter of time before your employees are susceptible to any one of this risk. And also, it's way more easy to run a successful phishing attack on 10 or 20 small businesses in a day than it is to run a successful attack on a large multinational company, purely because they're probably going to have a lot of security in place. It's going to be easier to catch the person who's hacked into the company. But with smaller companies, with these measures, it almost makes it very easy for the hacker to come into your breach into your system. And we've had instances where the companies were not even aware that they were hacked until it was too late. So since now that we've established currently mobile phones are your hacker's favorite way to get inside your organization, it's important that you have some sort of security in place for your mobile devices. It might be an advanced security solution, or you might want to put at least an antivirus on your phone to get the basic parts covered. The next step is, I'm sure a lot of you will have staff working hybrid, working remotely. They're probably on the road, depending upon the industry as well. So you need to have a capability to remotely wipe the data on the device, especially if you have a lost, stolen, or a compromised device. If your employee also happened to have a device with no passcode on it, that basically means anybody can pick up their phone and access the information on it. So having a capability to remote wipe the data on your device gives you the power that even when something goes wrong, at least you can ensure both personal and company information on that phone is removed and will not be accessed by anybody else. Thirdly, if you do have a device that was compromised, say if an employee happened to download a malware app, you probably have employees with kids who are accessing those phones. They're probably downloading these games on it. If they happen to download any sort of malware application, you need to have a policy in place where this malware cannot access any company critical information like your emails, your passwords, or documents. So when you're trying to look for a solution for your mobile phones, keep in mind that there is an option to provide conditional access as well. Next slide, thank you. So, of course, you can add multiple policies and processes in your organization, but the success of it truly depends upon whether your employees have your back, whether they are willing to adopt it. And the biggest barrier to mobile security solution, or even any sort of IT solution for that matter, is employee acceptance. You need them to understand the solution, the purpose for it, and get behind what you're trying to do. The main objection, as I spoke about earlier, is obviously privacy concerns. They don't want to feel like their company is monitoring what they're doing. We've also encountered situations where employees are ashamed or sometimes even scared to report if they've been part of a phishing attack due to any sort of repercussions, like they might lose their job or if they might get into trouble. And since companies already don't have visibility on what's going on in the phone, if you take the element of an employee reporting that as well, you're basically in the dark if something has gone wrong. So you can't understand the true damage of what's gone wrong. And A key thing to note is phishing attacks are not always about trying to get your banking credentials and wiping out your bank account. There are different motivations to every single phishing attack. Sometimes a hacker just wants to steal your employees' login credentials for email. They might not do anything, just sit back and monitor what kind of systems that they have access to, what kind of data they have access to. Or alternatively, they might use this particular employee's email address to send more phishing attacks to other employees in the organization. Maybe they might send a malware infested invoice or an Excel sheet or something like that, just until they land a big fish or someone who can give them what they want. So that's why it's crucial to spot these attacks immediately, because if you don't, you will never know the true impact or negative damage from this breach. Some organizations also conduct cybersecurity training, and I think this is really important, that every employee needs to be aware of what sort of threats can affect their data. But today's phishing attacks are, again, super advanced. While the training is a good first step, it's not the one-stop solution to this. So again, human error is bound to happen at some point or the other. So this is not your end to stopping any sort of phishing attacks. And if your organization was a part of a phishing attack once, it's likely it's going to happen again in the future. So the best way to approach security, both on your mobiles or laptops or anything in the future, is to always make it people-centric. So look for a solution that keeps your employee privacy in mind, so it doesn't track or collect information that is private to employees. It shouldn't see what sort of SMSs or calls are coming in. All of that information is irrelevant to a solution, so it shouldn't be tracking any personal information of your staff. Also ensure that employees can openly report any sort of phishing attacks or errors, so that there is honest communication and transparency on this. If you do choose to go ahead with any sort of security solution for your mobiles in the future, just keep in mind that the way the solution works should not hinder the performance of the phone or way your employees access and perform their day-to-day tasks on the phone. So it should be just sitting in the background and not disturbing how they use the phone. That's me. I'll just over to Jimmy. He can talk about how 3 can help fill this gap for you guys.
Thanks, Sandhya. So, yeah, we've looked at process and we've looked at people, and those are key pillars of the having a well-rounded security posture for your business. Without pillar 3 in place, however, which is effectively providing a safety net to underpin both of those previous, you are to an extent still relying on hope as a strategy to defend yourself and your business from any sort of cyber attack. Now, it's great, process is crucial, people are important. You need to put the 3rd pillar in place to really show and protect your business and avoid any of the employee error, mistake, that sort of thing that can still happen, even with the best will in the world and the best processes and people in place. So how 3 can help with this? We work with Karata to provide a product called 3 Mobile Protect, which is an app-based mobile security solution that works across iOS and Android devices to basically protect against pretty much any mobile threat that's out there. It's easy to deploy, simple to manage, and it absolutely never, ever compromises employee privacy. So it covers pretty much any attack vector you might experience as a business. So that from anti-phishing to vulnerability management to stopping malware and data loss at a device level, as well as allowing you to set sort of compliance policies, acceptable use, all that sort of stuff based on your business requirements. And it's all managed by a very simple, intuitive, user-friendly platform. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So a bit more detail around what 3 Mobile Protect actually provides. So as we said, it's an app that's simply downloaded to an employee's device. You can deploy either via SMS or by integrating it with any mobile device management solution you might be running. And once it's installed, it takes minutes to get onto a device. Your employee and therefore your business is fully protected against the phishing attacks that we've talked about a lot today, however they may present themselves. So whether that's a messaging app, whether that's SMS, whether that's the old email method, however that comes in, if somebody accidentally clicks on one of these links, which are, as we've talked about, more and more sophisticated, they will be blocked and that phishing attack will be neutralized before it can cause any damage. We've got full malware detection and response. So if any malware were to find its way onto a business device, that will be identified and the device can be quarantined immediately and it's effectively insulated from accessing your business resources until that's been remediated. And the great news is that the user can self-remediate that with a couple of clicks to remove that malware and get back into business straight away. You can filter web content that prevent access to any illegal, inappropriate or undesirable content across Wi-Fi or cellular data. So you can configure policies to suit how your business works and the way your employees need to work, as well as it providing full antivirus capability, vulnerability management. So you have absolute visibility of all threats that are identified and neutralized on your devices across your whole estate. And that therefore protects your corporate network from being breached by all of these myriad of attacks that are out there. So like we say, it's built with employee privacy in mind. It minimizes the use of sensitive information by handling everything on device, so employees aren't singled out or reported on for any purpose, and that encourages employee adoption of the service by reassuring them that they're not being tracked or monitored by their employee. So back to Sandhya to just talk about some real life examples of how this has benefited businesses.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, so just before we wrap up the session, just wanted to share a quick success story as well, or to just talk about challenges that similar companies have had. Doesn't matter if you're a company with one employee or a company with thousands of employees, your need for security remains the same. You're all doing crucial activity for your business. So it's important that whether the content is being accessed from laptops or desktops or any other device, it's important that that device is secured. So Ulster Bank is one of the third largest commercial banks in Ireland. They have over 3,000 employees and they're part of the NatWest group. So the challenge that Ulster Bank was facing was twofold. Their employees were given smartphones, again, to perform their day-to-day operations, communicate with colleagues. They had a pre-existing MDM solution and also had firewalls in the office. The challenge, again, was not all employees were in the office all 5 days of the week. They were working remotely and they were working hybrid. So it's important that they wanted to secure their devices both inside the network and outside the network. And currently, they had no visibility on employees with the phishing attacks, because I'm sure a lot of you have received these rampant SMS phishing scams. So that was a gap for them. And in the local branches all over the country, they have hundreds of branches all over the country. And the customers use Android and iOS tablets to, again, open bank accounts, apply mortgages, and so on. And these same tablets were also being used by the retail staff in the branches. So because of the diverse use case, they wanted to make sure all the information on those tablets were safe and protected. And again, as a financial organization, they were under a lot of regulatory requirements as well. So that's important they adhere to them at all points. So what we worked with them, we deployed the Karata security solution to their phones. And from the employee's perspective, it only takes around 10 to 20 seconds to get the app installed and ready to go. So we do understand phones are crucial for your employees on a day-to-day basis. So it doesn't take, it's no more, it's just exactly like downloading an app from your App Store or Play Store. So we were able to effectively block any sort of phishing attacks that they were getting on SMS, WhatsApp, and other channels. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Sandhya. That is amazing. Clearly, the threat is absolutely real. And we at 3, we want to be able to support all of our customers. So I guess the next thing really is, how do our customers find out more? Well, I'm your interface into 3. You can drop me a line on my email address at sadie.dales@3.co.uk. You can also go to our website as well, 3 Mobile Protect. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and my colleagues. We're constantly sharing lots of information, and I believe that we may now be having questions and answers. So I will see what questions we have. And Jimmy and Sandhya will be amazing and answer them perfectly for us, I'm sure. So if we have any questions, that would be amazing. Let's challenge these guys. Let's see what they know.
I think there's a few that I can see, Sadie.
Okay. So I'm just going to have a look. I'm just going into my chat. Here we go, questions and answers. Perfect. Okay. So the first question that we have is, in your opinion, what is the biggest risk to mobile security? Is it people or is it process?
I'll take that one, Sadie, thank you. So when it comes to mobile security, I think, as we've talked today, you need to have all of the components in place to give yourself the maximum protection that you can. I think if we were going to pick one of these items as a potential risk, I think it would be people. Now, people are obviously a business's biggest asset. You know, you can't really do business without great people, but they do unfortunately also double up as the potentially the biggest vulnerability that businesses have, due to the fact that they are exposed to these attacks, and the increasing sophistication of them means that even the best prepared and most vigilant employee can sometimes fall foul of it. Mobile devices are optimized for user experience, not for the sort of forensic interrogation of what a link looks like or where an email's come from, which makes it easier for mistakes to happen. So, you know, the important bit is having the process in the place to train your people, to give them the best chance to succeed in identifying these threats, and then putting the product in place to act as a safety net to catch anything that might slip through the net.
Fantastic. I also have another question here, and actually this is a really good one. How can I change the misconceptions around security monitoring my staff's personal data?
Probably I can answer that one. The first one is always be transparent with your employees before you deploy any sort of solution. Be upfront with them, communicate with them about what exactly is the solution, the purpose of deploying such a solution, what it does, and also share some documents or share some information about what sort of information it collects. That's what your employees are keen about. So always answer any questions that they have about privacy concerns. Tell them that this is exactly what it monitors, and all your personal information like your passwords or photos or your text messages or what you're doing on WhatsApp, it's not under the purview of the solution. So just work with them and communicate. And in our experience of working with multiple organizations on deploying security, once you have this honest and transparent communication before the solution is deployed, there's almost little to no sort of objections when you're working with them on the solution. So they're almost happy once they understand what it does and what it protects, because like I mentioned, there's also a lot of personal usage on company phones. So to some extent, they're also kind of relieved that their banking apps or their Revolut on the company phones are also protected from these phishing scams.
That's really good to know. Thank you, Sandhya. Another question. which probably is close to my heart because I hate being without my phone for a period of time. How quick, easy is it to implement the 3 Mobile Protect? My employees can't be without their phones for an extended period of time.
So I'll jump in on that one, Sadie, thank you. The answer is it's extremely quick and easy. The service can be deployed to mobile devices within minutes from us provisioning it. So there's 2 ways of this rolling out. One is by sending the employees, the end users, an SMS where they can download the app direct from the App Store. They log in with a one-time passcode, and the phone is effectively immediately protected. Alternatively, if a business is running a mobile device management solution like Intune or Mobile Iron or something along those lines, we can fully integrate with that, and the application can be pushed out via the mobile device management solution. So depending on the business requirement, devices can be protected within a matter of minutes, and there's absolutely no downtime for an employee. It's protection immediately from the app going onto the device.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, we're getting lots of questions come through. Does my company need a minimum amount of employees or mobile devices for 3 Mobile Protect to work?
Again, I'll jump in there quickly. No is the short answer to that one. From 1 device to 1 million devices, whatever the requirement is, we can cover it. We don't think security should be the preserve of large organizations, and actually we think it's crucially important that small and medium businesses have the same level of protection as your larger corporate businesses would. So no, 1 device upwards we can cover.
Perfect, thank you, that's amazing. These questions really are coming through thick and fast. Do you provide an overview of reports, updates on performance, any attacks or threats, or employees on phishing links, etc.?
Yep. Yeah. So the answer is yes. So how the solution works is there is an admin console. So maybe the business owner or your IT employee can access this, and this gives them an overall information on what sort of threats and vulnerabilities are affecting your employee devices. So if you happen to click, if one of your staff happen to click on a NatWest phishing link, it'll immediately show up on the back end of the system. It'll tell them that this is the site that they clicked on, and this is why we blocked access. So all of that information is there for you to see. So you understand what in real time, what sort of threats are affecting your employees on a daily basis, but there's no additional action that needs to be taken because the app will immediately detect this as a suspicious site and block access to that. So your employee won't give away any sort of important or crucial information.
Perfect, thank you. Another question is, can we provide a demo for 3 Mobile Protect? May I answer that? Yes, we can. Jimmy, tell us, what do we do?
Well, yes, in short, we can do that. We've got full demo capability for anybody who would be interested in seeing more. Please, in the first instance, engage with Sadie or your 3 sales rep, whoever that may be. And we would be more than happy to discuss your requirements with you and arrange a demo with ourselves and with the support of Karata, if that's going to be useful.
Perfect. Another question that I have is, I've heard some really interesting stories about cybersecurity issues where people have been compromised. One where someone was hacked, phished a year ago. Issues didn't get noticed for a year, and then when the invoice got changed, the app noticed suspicious activity from the point of sale. That question, I'm not sure if I fully understand it. It might be that the anonymous person that raised the question might want to contact me direct so that we can maybe schedule some time. What do you think, Jimmy?
I think it would obviously be useful for anyone who's interested to have a chat with you, Sadie. I think Sandhya alluded to this in her section, whereby attacks aren't always apparent immediately. People can deploy a phishing link and gain access to a system, or via some malware, a command and control server or something along those lines, and actually just sit back and collect data and build a picture of an organization so they can decide on what the next step is to get the maximum value from the attack that they've launched. In this instance, I think it's saying, would we have picked that up with the app at the point that that attack was launched, rather than once it became apparent? And I think the answer is yes. If this malware, if this is a link that's been embedded into an invoice or something like that, as soon as that is identified or clicked on and assessed as a threat by 3Mobile Protect, then it would absolutely be blocked.
Wonderful. And the next question I have is, are the attacks stopped immediately through the app? How do they block these?
Yeah, the answer is they are immediately blocked. We have a proprietary intelligence system. Our threat can immediately detect whether a site is legitimate or not, and they're immediately blocked access to the content if it happens to be a suspicious site or a phishing link. So
amazing. Another question. I love it. Once the app is installed, would it pick up historic activity, or is it that the app is only going to pick up any threats once it's actually been installed? So would it see anything historic is the question, I guess.
So if you clicked on a phishing link last week and you don't install the app today, we can't detect that. But if you had a malware app that was downloaded on your phone and you still have it when the app was when the security app was downloaded, then it can instantly detect and tell you that this particular app you have on your phone is malware. But for phishing, we can't see what you did a month ago, but we can see what happens from the moment you have the app installed.
I think just to add to that, Sandhya, and you'll agree with this from some of the demos and then customer engagements that we've done, that we often, as a demo, deploy this onto devices in live for your company to see, to demonstrate what it picks up. And I think the average is about 1 in 10 devices when we deploy this as a trial is picked up as having an active vulnerability. So whether that's malware, whether that is out-of-date iOS, that means the device is susceptible to attack, we frequently identify issues when we trial this onto customers' devices. So again, worthwhile an engagement with Sadie or your 3 rep to discuss further how we can help protect your business.
Thanks, Jimmy. Another question, does the app provide any disaster recovery options, e.g. backups into the cloud?
Disaster recovery, not so much, but like I spoke about remote wipe earlier. So if you have the option, like an employee lost your phone and you have to remote wipe it, it just does a factory reset on the phone. In most phones, your stuff is stored on clouds and stuff anyway, so it'd be easy to retrieve your content back on your phone. But again, this is just for like dire situations that you have to wipe the data on your phone. It just goes to a factory reset, but you can always retrieve it because most phones by default have cloud storing options, so it'd be easier for you to get it back.
Okay, perfect. The next question is, can the solution be connected to any network? Jimmy, what are your thoughts on that in terms of our partnership?
The Karata solution is, it could be deployed on any iOS or Android device. At 3, if you're interested in that, we can support you. If you have a requirement to protect your devices and you would like to engage with us, then we can support you to assess your needs and fulfill your security requirements if you have them. So I think that probably covers all of the questions, Sadie. I think anything that's outstanding, we can pick up with the attendees separately and follow up on those.
I think so, absolutely, because there are a lot of questions, and I apologise if I haven't actually covered off any questions that have actually been listed on here. Please do reach out directly to myself if you have questions, and I will be more than happy to speak with you directly, schedule some time, bring Jimmy and Sandhya on the call, and we can have a thorough conversation that's maybe more pertinent to your business. What I'd like to do now is thank everybody for coming on this call. Thank Lucy for hosting this webinar for us. And I'd like to hand over to Lucy.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Just want to say thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to all of our delegates for the questions. Thank you to Karata. Thank you to 3 Business. We will follow up with everybody after the event, and we will pick up with any questions that are outstanding, or if anyone wants any more details. We'll share all the contact details and the recording. But for now, thank you so much. And if you need anything, you know where we are.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.